Well, everyone, welcome to today's local lens. We're excited to have you with us tonight. Before we dive in, I'd like to review our group agreements, something that we do before the start of every local lens. The purpose of today's session is to be a space for learning and conversation among members of community councils and the public. The goal of the session today is to dive deep into something from government structures to special projects within the municipality. Today, we're all agreeing to treat each other with respect, recognize our neighborhood's unique qualities, and allow everyone a chance to participate. Some logistical notes: if you can stay on mute until you're called on. If you have a question at the end of the presentation that you want to get answered, you can either raise your hand or drop your question in the chat and we'll go in order. Please keep your questions to the topic and be concise. And we do end at exactly an hour, so please be considerate of the time. At the end of the session, we'll provide contact information, and we encourage you to invite our presenters today to your next community council meeting. I'm excited for today's topic, our first ones for 2026. We've been trying to get them on the schedule for a number of months now. We have the People Movers Transit on the Move group with Stephen and Maria. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah.
I'm going to start by sharing my screen and take it away if that works. So hopefully you are seeing what I am sharing. I am Stephen. I'm the transit planner for People Mover, and my colleague Maria is our business development and outreach coordinator, here to talk about buses and transit related things as it relates to the municipality. So specifically tonight, we're here to talk about transit on the move. What is that? That is our guiding document. It is called a transit development plan. So if you are familiar with city plans, there's road plans, there's neighborhood plans, there's area plans. There's a lot of things that happen within the city that get developed by plans. Our department for People Mover, Anchorage, and our rideshare division have a one master plan. It's called Transit on the Move, and it basically tells us what to do, what to focus on as we try to expand our transit services throughout the municipality in the urbanized area where we can provide transit services. So not all the way down to Girdwood, but mostly in the Bowl and Eagle River and Chugiak. So Transit on the Move has an acronym, just like every other plan does. We call it TOTM. And again, it's a guiding document for our department. It gives us specific transit ideas and projects that are community developed and community based on feedback. And then we update it around every 5 years. So we started this version here in 2019, and it was published in 2020. So we started updating this project and this plan in January of last year. So we went through kind of what we have done in the past 5 years. Examples of things that are in the current transit plan are Route 85 that brought back service on Old Seward Highway to the Lusac Library in downtown, connecting Huffman Business Park in downtown Anchorage via the Old Seward Highway, and West Anchorage getting service back on Wisconsin, some parts of Spenard as well. We added a transit security department. We actually, one thing that came out of Transit on the Move 2020 was the position that Maria has. The community thought it would be great to have an outreach and development coordinator to expand our UPass partnership. Those are organizations and companies that connect with us and have their employees or their students able to ride the buses for free because their company or corporation pays for them. So we did finished a comprehensive fare study back in 2024, early 2025. That was the first time that was done in about 10 years. So there are specific projects that the 2020 version led us to. And again, that was based off of community input. So we are now entering the last part of this process. I'm going to recap what we did last summer in phase three. And we spent this past fall summarizing all of the comments and the survey results from this past summer's events. But we were in the community a lot this past summer at any place we could get into from April to end of September. We were asking the community one basic question: what do you value in public transit services? So we got into festivals, street fairs, parades, activities, bus stops, from Chugiak High School and Eagle River at Bear Paw, all the way down to the Alaska Zoo, and some specific events that we did at some senior community housing places south of Huffman. So we tried to reach a very wide group of people, from events downtown, West Anchorage, South Anchorage, Northeast, Mountain View, and even into, again, Eagle River and Chugiak. So I'll leave this map up here on the screen for just a second to say that we spent the whole summer listening to people and asking one question: what do you value in public transit? And that was the intent of that whole survey. I'm going to recap a little bit of those results, which are on the screen now. And if you want more information, you can get more details of this survey on our website, our specific project website, which is, if I haven't said it yet, transitonthemove.com. So you can access it from our regular peoplemover.org website, but I'll get to that later. So again, we asked the community at all of these events last summer what you value in public transit. And your options were accessibility, convenience, reliability, or other. So the three core principles that were founded in the 2019 to 2020 plan. Accessibility to us means access. Can you get to where you want, to places where you want to go via public transit on our current system? That's what accessibility means to us. Convenience is how often the buses come by. Is it convenient for you to ride the bus if you choose to do that? Reliability, it means, are we providing a service that shows up on time and it's reliable, meaning you can get to where you need to go, you can depend on the bus or Anchor Rides services, or if you're a rideshare participant, that you have a quality vehicle, it's not going to break down, that kind of thing. So some of the breakdowns here that I'll, again, are on the website, but I'll just focus on the other category. Most people who chose other in that survey couldn't decide which of the three options they wanted to select. They thought all three of them were important. They thought all three of them should equally bear the brunt of what we focus on and what we prioritize, which we agree with. But the intent of this survey was to get a feel for the community and see if we needed to focus on one thing over the other. Because there's two types of transit systems, we historically had been in a coverage model. So routes that meandered through neighborhoods that didn't take a direct path to any location, but you could at least get on a bus maybe once every hour or once every 90 minutes. That's the system that was in place for a lot of people mover service prior to 2017. There was a lot of events called Anchorage Talks Transit. There was a lot of community outreach in 2016, which led to that document. And it basically said that the system needs to realign to go to a frequent or frequency methodology. And that is how our system runs right now, with 4 of our routes operating at 15-minute service on more direct roads, being Northern Lights, Spinard, DeBar, and then Burgaw on Route 20. So connecting major employment centers and places of jobs and medical facilities and schools to buses that run more often, even if it meant reducing coverage in areas of town that we used to have bus service. So a lot of people commented on the survey that we still need to prioritize access. So a 10% margin, going back to the pie chart, of more people think that we need to focus on adding more service right now on roads that don't have them. So that leads me into the point of our current phase 5 of Transit on the Move is presenting all of the comments and project ideas that are in our newest, most up-to-date, latest survey. So I wish it was easy. I wish it was very simple to say, but I'm glad we have the opportunity here to explain some of these project ideas and what the transit services could mean for the future of Anchorage. So with the comments that we received and opinions and perspectives from, again, all across the municipality, we formulated those into route ideas or transit services ideas. So that's what we are proposing to the public right now, and that's what's on screen is one of the options. So on our current survey, there are 31 different options for you to choose, and we're asking you to select 5 and rank those 5 in your priority. So that will give us a new prioritized list of projects that we will be working on until 2030, 2031. So again, to recap, the reason we have Route 85 right now is because that was the most advocated for bus route to come back into service. Old Seward Highway, Lusac Library, Wisconsin are the major parts of that. The areas of Anchorage that did not have bus service. So the community rallied behind that one priority last time, along with transit security. So because we have implemented those, we're updating this prioritized list with another list of projects. But that's, again, going to give us direction for the next few years of what we should focus on. So I'm going to walk you through some of these projects. And again, more details are on the website. But what's on the screen right now is an idea that's come from many people across different parts of the city. There are advocates on base and off base that would like a bus route to connect people from roughly downtown transit center through the Government Hill area, through the Government Hill gate, and then accessing at least some parts of J-Bear. So whether that route ends at the VA hospital, which would connect people to Route 25, and then sort of the rest of the current bus network that way down along Muldoon, or the route could, in theory, end at the D Street gate, the Richardson gate, connecting to the library, the base exchange, the hospital, the fitness centers for both entities there, and other places, housing developments along base. So if this is what the community says that they want to prioritize, we have heard comments in our other public events throughout the years that folks that either are veterans or are active duty military or family members of those can't get on base because they don't have a car or for whatever reason, and they would love transit access on base. Transit access onto military bases is not new. There's lots of military installations around the US that have this capability. So this would be adding service onto base as one project. Another one is a project that was in the 2020 plan, but it wasn't ranked high enough. And that's going to be a theme here because we're carrying over projects from the 2020 plan and then introducing new projects. So this route option right now that's called the Crosstown route, a lot of people have advocated for east to west connections across town because we do a really good job of north-south up Jewel Lake and Spenard, up Arctic, up Lake Otis to then connect through Burgaw and DeBar to get people to downtown. So there are avenues that we do pretty well north-south, but getting people from kind of north Mountain View or east Anchorage to the airport is a struggle for people to have to get off and transfer buses and that kind of thing. So this route idea is a combination of many things. It connects access on 36th Avenue, which was taken away in 2017. It adds access to the Anchorage Neighborhood Health Center, which people have advocated for years since they moved south of Tudor, north of International, just on the west side of C Street, in a beautiful campus there. It would be another connection from sort of east to west. So getting folks, I'll kind of draw this with my cursor if you can see that. The route possibility, the idea would start in the Glen Square Shopping Center, so a big employment center and a shopping center. It would come up in through North Mountain View like Route 31 does right now. And then it would come down, it would add bus access down all of Boniface Parkway. Currently doesn't have any bus access along Boniface. And then it would come through the Alaska Native Medical Center campus up through Providence and UAA, UMed area and APU. And then it would come all the way across 36, down C Street by the neighborhood health center, and then out International to the airport. So the route would start and end at the airport and North Mountain View. The alternative would be if this route starts and or ends at the Muldoon Transit Hub, which is how it's presented in the 2020 plan. But there is a great need based off of census data over the past decade or so that there's a lot of folks that live in this north section of Boniface Parkway that have zero vehicle households. So we feel that to better provide access again to folks in that area, bi-directional routing through North Mountain View would also help add transit access to those folks who maybe want to go directly to the UMed area along Boniface or any type of employment centers along that route. So the crosstown route is a combination of a 2020 project that wasn't ranked high enough, but a little modification with some updated census data based on the community. So this next slide talks about Elmore and Independence. So again, folks have advocated for transit access from Muldoon to the Diamond Transit Center, which is not possible currently unless you transfer at the ANMC and THC campus. So this would add bus access on Beaver and Baxter and on Elmore across Abbott and Independence Park neighborhood that used to have bus service. This would also add bus service to the C Street and South 100th shopping center where the Target and Cabela's is. We have heard from businesses down there that they were struggling to hire folks that couldn't get there without a vehicle. So adding bus service to that area would help their businesses. And then that route would end up coming up King Street to Diamond Boulevard. So that's the left side of this screen. On the right side, I'll pause here for a second. Transit on the Move is designed to take comments from the public and advocate for those specific needs, but it's also designed to take regional projects that are implemented at a broader level from not just Anchorage and Eagle River and Chugiak areas, but more of a South Central type of outlook. So this Express Downtown and Diamond route project was added because of partly the Seward Glen Pell study that's happening right now and getting through its phases of that kind of regional project. So to connect the Glen Highway and the Seward Highway, whatever version that is, if that takes vehicle traffic or bus traffic off of the Ingra Gamble corridor, what does it look like to add this type of service, add this bus route from Diamond to downtown up the A and C Street corridor at a more rapid pace than just 15-minute service. So this idea would be buses every 10 minutes, and it would not necessarily mean every quarter of a mile there would be a bus stop, but it could mean every mile or so there would be a bus stop. So the buses aren't stopping as frequently, which does diminish its access, but it's getting folks from south to north or north to south faster than you could do it on either of our other routes, 65 or 35, that kind of go in a more roundabout way. So this specific project, again, it was identified because of a regional connection, regional studies of a broader scope of what does it look like to alleviate some of the burden of single car traffic on Ingram and Gamble through those lane reduction studies, through the Pell that's also happening at this current moment. So the next slides are kind of to give you the idea of route alignment changes or route extension changes. So the two options on the screen on the left side, if we were to change the Route 92, which is our commuter route from Eagle River into Anchorage via the Takatnu Commons and the VA Medical Clinic area. So instead of this route starting at the Eagle River Transit Center and coming kind of straight to the highway, like it does right now, what if it went through Eagle River, either on the loop road or on Eagle River Road, and then down to the highway? So does that add more access for folks to possibly commute into work by just changing the alignment? And alternatively, on the right side of the screen, if the Route 92 was extended to parts of where it used to run, up to the South Birchwood Park and Ride or the North Birchwood Park and Ride, does that help reduce some of that commuter traffic on the Glen Highway coming into town? Does it give more folks in Eagle River access to the VA clinic, to Takatnu Commons, to the shopping centers there, or to all the way downtown, that type of thing? So there are other project ideas that you can vote on. Most of them have links and maps like I'm showing you right now. So there's a description and a visual representation of what that route could look like. So when you get to the survey and you see a blue text that's underlined, that's a hyperlink. You can click on that and it will give you some visuals and some extra details on what that project could look like should it be implemented. So here is a new route idea for Eagle River. It's not I'll rephrase, sorry. It's not a new route idea, but it's a change from the 2020 version of Transit on the Move. That version had this route going up into Birchwood, and I was able to present this idea to the Birchwood Community Council a week and a half ago, so they have an idea of what this looks like in our new phase. So there are kind of inhibitions and things that would keep us from realistically adding bus service on roads that are not made, and the infrastructure would be too great of feet, too expensive to realize. So we kind of changed that idea and just made this, proposing this route alternative. So this would just provide fixed route bus service in Eagle River along the main corridor, the main paths of Eagle River town. So instead of the north or the Birchwood Loop Road, which doesn't have sidewalks, it doesn't have pedestrian infrastructure, it's a 2-lane road that goes into ditches. In order for us to add the infrastructure that we would need, there would be millions and millions of dollars to be able to add an ADA compliant bus stop that's connected to a pedestrian path that would be allowed and helpful for people to get to that bus service. So we can't just throw up bus service anywhere, even though there are areas in town right now that just have a pole and grass. We're working on fixing a lot of those issues so people can have a level concrete pad that is ADA compliant, that we can then help people get to easier, connecting them by sidewalks or bike paths or that kind of thing. So this Eagle River route is different than the 2020 version, just to draw your attention to that for those folks. I'll switch gears right now to talk about Fairview. So we did just extend Route 11 into Midtown. That happened starting in October of this year due to the Aurora cars that closed in May of 2025, this past year. So we were given a directive that we couldn't increase our budget, so we were not able to do a transit on the move project for Fairview like what's represented on the map. So this idea is presented in the 2020 plan, but we've modified it now with the new alignment coming down Ingram and Gamble into the Midtown, Northern Lights, and Benson area. So just because we updated that route doesn't mean that that's what Route 11 needs to be or do. So we're still asking the question, and I was able to present this to the Fairview Community Council last week. What does Route 11 need to do? Where does it need to go? Is it better for the Fairview community to just get to downtown to transfer to all of the other routes that go downtown? Or does it need to go itself just through Fairview and the Senior Activity Center area, Chugach Manor and Chugach View, to UMed or to the Neighborhood Health Center by the library? That was one of the comments that was brought up at that meeting was Fairview people want to go to Lusac. Will that change when the downtown library branch opens? Don't know, but that's something that we are taking those comments and trying to facilitate a project idea, a route idea that would take people by Lusac Library and this kind of version of this Midtown and UMed option to end and start at the Neighborhood Health Center. So we have heard for years from folks at the Neighborhood Health Center that access by bus is very important. They get a lot of their patrons by Anchorage services right now. So would that change if we adjusted Route 11 or the crosstown route or another thing that I'll talk about in a few minutes? So again, what does Fairview need? That's what this kind of screen is for. This would be another regional idea. It's called Bus Rapid Transit or BRT. Lots of cities in the lower 48 have this. This would be service from UMed through 36 up Ingram Gamble to downtown at a frequency of maybe 7 to 10 minutes. So buses very often coming by, getting people to massive employment centers and destinations along that path. So I won't spend too much time on this, but again, it's the regional effort. If there are major shifts on Minnesota corridor, on A and C, on Ingram Gamble, what does it look like for our department to help alleviate that car traffic? The last thing that I want to mention is the concept of microtransit. So this would be new to Anchorage, new to Alaska, but not new to the lower 48 and not new to the planet, so to speak. So a microtransit zone, if you think about it this way, it is basically an Uber and Lyft service, but it is public transit. So it's app-based. You would schedule your ride using your mobile device, and it's door-to-door pickup, and it operates within a geographic zone. So it's not anywhere like Uber and Lyft, but its main intent would be to either connect you to a bus route so that your connectivity from, if you live a mile from your nearest bus route, it could take you to your local bus stop or to your local transit center so that then you could connect to the bus. Or this specific zone that's on screen right now in Southwest Anchorage would also connect people to the Alaska Zoo. And there are lots of people who advocated for some kind of transit service to the zoo. And we have consolidated those ideas into this microtransit zone. So basically, the vehicles would operate within this orange boundary, and they could go anywhere within that zone they want to. You could travel within that zone wherever you would want to. So even if it's not to connect you to a bus, if it's just to go grocery shopping, you could still take a transit service, microtransit service, and they're smaller vehicles, similar to the size of an Anchorage vehicle's 22-foot bus with a ramp or a lift, so they're ADA accessible. And you could go from anywhere within the zone to anywhere within the zone for whatever your needs are. And that could be either to connect you to a shopping or friend's house or to connect you to the bus. So on the survey and on the website, you'll see 5 different microtransit zones that we are proposing. Transit on the Move 2020 had 2 versions of that. So our new areas where we hope that we could at least provide access to people instead of providing a bus route, on the left side of the screen is Birchwood. So the Birchwood Loop Road that we feel is really infeasible for providing bus stops and bus routes in a fixed route capacity could be a microtransit zone that people could still get to places where they need to go within that map, within that geographic area, to either connect to Route 92 or just to get inside Eagle River. On the right side of the screen is an Eagle River only microtransit zone. So the other 2 zones are a northeast area and a midtown area. Because again, the neighborhood health center doesn't have bus access, and a lot of the hotels along A Street and C Streets don't have, especially south of Tudor, don't have bus access. So does this type of transit service provide those connections to people to not have to walk a mile to wherever they're trying to go if they're getting off a bus in the winter with our sidewalk issues and that kind of thing. So Ariana, it's 6:35. That's all I have. I can go into more details. We can answer more questions, but I feel like this is a pretty good place to stop.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have a large group today, so if anyone has questions and they want to put it in the chat or raise their hand. I have one question to kick us off. You guys have those 3 main principles. Did you find a lot of variance as people were like, I was thinking about the word accessibility, and when I took the survey, accessibility kind of meant like a couple different things to me. Did you see like people really struggling with the survey and the kind of definitions of the principles, or were people able to kind of stick to the question?
I would say both. Maria, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, the events that at least I attended and talked to people at, and we had this tokens at our tables for people to vote in person and then take the survey online. So hopefully we were able to communicate the definitions of the accessibility, convenience, and reliability efforts. But yes, there were some folks that assumed accessibility meant either mobility, accessibility, or that type of needs. But hopefully we're able to steer folks in the right direction.
I think that Stephen did a really great job of doing my job during the engagement work, really. He got all of our team on the same page with how we explain to folks when we engage with them at that conversational level what we meant by our different definitions. So while we didn't use industry jargon necessarily, yeah, we did notice early on that people were attributing like the accessibility to immediately to like wheelchair accessibility. So we would just let people know like all of our buses are wheelchair accessible. What we really mean is this. And so yeah, Stephen did a good job of giving us all the right rhetoric to start those conversations. And that was really our goal from the start with the engagement, was to talk to people and not just give them something to check a box.
Yeah. Yeah. And how often are bus routes changing? Like, are they changing every year? Is that normal? Is like nationally, are they change? Like, is it common for cities to change route? It just, from listening to the presentation, it seemed like we'd maybe had some more recent changes to reflect certain things. So is that normal?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up because I have been trying to emphasize this. Our bus routes don't change very often. Transit on the Move is designed to hear from the community what is needed next. So Route 11 changed this October because of the outcry from the community, the rallying of support about Fairview folks needing something to go to a pharmacy specifically and also a grocery store. So I would say we don't plan to change our routes very often, but if they need to change, that's why we present either extensions or realignments. So one thing that Maria and I were talking about earlier is how to kind of communicate the fact that will be our plan, these will be our projects, and they'll be prioritized for the next 5 years. So the goal is to get folks to take the survey to tell us what they want, because they won't have a great opportunity to do that for the next 5 years. We obviously will take questions and comments and hear from the public at everywhere we go, as far as where transit access is needed. But this specific project and this specific survey right now is designed to collect that and then to work on those things for the next few years, because the project ideas won't change.
Yeah. Well, like it's 2026, so maybe in 3 years we'll start this all over again.
I would say closer to 2030.
Oh, okay.
We do have other projects that are going on that will occupy both of our times as well. So
yes, I do remember asking you how the cycle works there, because there were a lot of surveys there for a minute.
Like the Transportation Improvement Program, the MTP, the AMATS projects, those get amended. I think the TIP is now on Amendment 4, so we don't amend Transit on the Move. It is kind of set at what it is for the next few years.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think I was really motivated by all of the routes. Why can't we have them all? Can you talk to us a little bit about like how that funding portion works and why we can't have them all, and what it would maybe take if people wanted more routes? Like, what would advocates need to do?
All of our projects identified in Transit on the Move require extra funding. So none of this is swapping route project for route project. So we will keep our current service. And then should we get more staffing and funding, whether that's, the funding could come from many places. So Route 85 was a 3-year FTA, Federal Transit Administration grant. So that paid for 90% of the operating cost for 3 years. And then we had to go to the assembly and say, do you want to keep this bus route? We would need a budget increase. So some of the projects, if they're expansions, are federally funded for the most part, along with the bus stop infrastructure that it takes to build the bus stops on roads that don't have them or have never had them, or we have to rehab some because they used to exist and years of winters tear up the concrete and that kind of stuff. So expansions are mostly federally funded. And then if it's a alignment change, it could happen within our current budget as long as it doesn't exceed that. So if we were to our current operating dollars and change Route 92 to go to North Birchwood Park and Ride and South Birchwood, so the run times that it takes to add that much time into those trips, if that exceeded our budget, we couldn't do that. But also our staffing levels, we had to reduce service in 2024 because of a driver shortage that we have been experiencing for several years. That's a nationwide problem for CDL drivers of all types, but also specifically bus drivers. So mostly funding and staffing is what inhibits us from doing these. But there are projects that I didn't mention that are not route specific, that are fare specific. So some of the projects that are on the survey are, do seniors go free year round, as opposed to just Wednesdays and soon to be just Wednesdays and Fridays, starting March 6th. So do veterans go free year round? So our fare study has some recommendations that could be individually implemented or as a holistic thing implemented. And I know that there's a link to the fare study. It's a big document. but it has an executive summary that also helps explain what that process was. And should that become our priority, then we would need a budget increase as opposed to a federal grant to pay for a new route. So it depends on what the projects are and how they are either staffed or completed. If that hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned employers paying bus passes for people. Any chance Jaber wants to pay for the bus route to Jaber?
That is a great question. I'm hoping so. We have connected with some folks on base, and there is some momentum from their side as well for them to want to pursue transit access. So given that we would apply for a federal grant to build bus stops on a federal piece of land, that could get tricky, but we would work all of those things out. So whoever is, if it comes from DOD funds or if it comes from DOT funds, so many acronyms.
one of the DOs.
Yes.
And you talked a little bit about out like fairs. Was there any part of your survey or your work that talked about like infrastructure? Is infrastructure part of this? For example, like a lot of the bus stops I drive by are just like one of those benches that you kind of like lean against and the sign. And so no coverage, no like no cover over people when there's snow, nothing like that. Was that part of this work? Is that separate funding? Like how does that kind of work?
It's another good question. It is separate. We are hopefully releasing our plans for what we call our bus stop improvement program. That will specifically say in 2026, these bus stops are getting benches, shelters, trash cans, amenities, or they're getting ADA improvements, Americans with Disability Act improvements. So meaning they're not going to have a big gap of concrete in the middle, or they're going to be properly fixed. So that is a different project that our site enhancement and capital improvements manager and I are working on. A bunch of us are working on as a team to add amenities. So that is not a transit on the move project or proposal, but we do hear those comments of if you're waiting on a bus that comes by every 60 minutes and you just miss it, are you going to stand there for 57 minutes or 52 minutes? Or would you rather have something to lean on or sit on? That type of thing. So amenities are something.
Or block the rain.
Yes, or a shelter for sure to block the rain or snow or wind. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What does community engagement look like for you guys after TOTM?
We still
I know it's Maria. It's kind of a question for Maria because it's her job.
Yeah,
so
Maria, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, community engagement is just going to mean going to community councils, and it doesn't necessarily have to be around the transit on the move. We just like to remind community councils that in their areas, what they can do with the conversations they can have with their communities about engaging with transportation and moving away from that stigma that it just is only if you can afford it type of thing, or if you can't afford a vehicle type of accountability for just the community showing up and showing people that we can have everybody ride, and it doesn't have to just be you can't afford a car. So my goal is to get out and continue to talk to people about the U-Pass, reminding folks that they have that option. The Anchorage School District just signed on so that their teachers and faculty can ride, because all students now ride free as of last year, July. And so just getting people to sort of show up and be that representation and continue to ride. So we'll definitely still be in the community. We're constantly going to regular meetings like the ADA Commission meetings, senior centers, and just building partnerships that we can carry on into the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Along
you might go to more community council meetings than I do.
Along with library training events. So we have a travel trainer. If you are watching this video later and you've never been on the bus and you'd like to give it a try, we have monthly meetings at all 4 public libraries in Anchorage. and Eagle River to kind of just get introduced to the idea, what it looks like when you pay a fare, if you have to pay a fare, if you're going to try your first day on a Wednesday and you're a senior, great. But those types of things that we will continuously do, along with being in festivals and activities that we are always happy to be a part of, like the Rondi Parade coming up this weekend and July 4th parades, and big community events that we always like to have a presence at as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun to run into you guys at every event over the past 12 months. You guys were anywhere and everywhere, which was very impressive. Oh man, I should have worn my People Mover Christmas sweater. Gosh darn it.
That's okay.
We've got one person. You got any questions from the audience tonight? It's okay if not. But well, I think unless I know Stephen, you said you had a couple other things. If you want to add those, now's the time. Or maybe I asked really great questions.
I covered everything.
Okay, great. Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much. I do just want to mention for those who may watch later, we have another local lens coming up on March 9th with the municipal clerk. We're really excited to have them talk to us about the clerk's office and what they do, kind of a follow-up to the Assembly Legislative Services. And if you want to watch our previous sessions, we've got them on YouTube at youtube.com/@community councils. You can find lots of info on our website at communitycouncils.org /local-lens. We have all of our previous sessions along with all of the documents. And we're always looking for new ideas. So if you have any ideas for a future local lens, you can email info@communitycouncils.org. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Maria. Thank you guys so much. And everybody have a great night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.